Hello, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. My name is Aaliyah Carter. I will never forget the moment the truck sped through the intersection, the screech of brakes tearing the air, and then my whole world exploding in a blinding shock. When I opened my eyes in the hospital, my ribs sharp with pain and breath broken, the husband I once trusted looked at me like a broken object and said coldly, "I cannot stand a useless wife anymore." Those words cut deeper than the crash. What he did not know was that only a few days later, my life would turn on a secret worth $100 million. After the accident, lying in the hospital and listening to Terrence's cruelty, memories of the road I had walked returned like a slow film. To understand why I could hold my head high, we have to go back to the day I laid the first bricks of my own life. The house on Beacon Hill, with its red brick walls and federal windows, was not a gift. It was years of tuna sandwiches and cheap coffee, 2 or 3 jobs at once, every dollar saved. I remember debating in the supermarket whether to buy another pack of cheese because that money could go into my savings at the end of the month. When I signed the contract to buy the house at 29, the broker stared like he could not believe a young woman alone had earned a deposit with her own work. I smiled, took the keys, and breathed deeply, knowing I had claimed a piece of the world for myself. The first night, I slept on a thin blanket in the bare living room, my backpack for a pillow. The old wood floors creaked. The yellow gas lamps outside cast Vine's shadows across the brick. I whispered, "I did it." That feeling could never be taken from me. Work was the same. I founded Whitaker Run, a small tech company specializing in data infrastructure. At first, 4 of us crammed into a tiny rented room, working day and night. I signed contracts while running a 102-degree fever, drove 200 miles to meet a potential client, and gave up vacations to make payroll. Persistence has no fireworks. It is endless days of typing in silence. Then a merger and acquisition arrived like a storm. A larger corporation bought in, and I became chief executive officer with thousands of employees in Boston and New York. People called me the founder. The press wrote flattering lines. But I knew being chief executive meant 4 a.m. payroll reviews, midnight signatures, and worrying about every family depending on my company. Terrence appeared when I had already found success, tailored suit, knowing smile, a vintage bicycle propped in the hallway like artwork. He joked he brought modern energy into my old house. At first, I found the contrast charming. He made me feel chosen, and I believed he might share both the light and the dark. Slowly, I realized Terrence had a habit of belittling me to raise himself. When friends asked about my work, he would laugh and say, "She does some consulting here and there, mostly stays at home." I tried to explain I ran a company and had closed a deal worth hundreds of millions. He brushed it off or changed the subject. Once, when I pressed him, he shrugged. Titles do not mean anything. Truly talented people do not need to brag. Partly from exhaustion, partly from believing peace mattered, I let the comment slide. Silence allowed him to repeat it again and again. I remember a dinner on Charles Street with an old friend, an investor, asking about expansion plans. Terrence cut in. "She is good with numbers. The big decisions are handled by the team." I forced a smile and sipped my wine, catching my friend's surprised look. The image Terrence painted bore no resemblance to my reality. When I confronted Terrence later, saying I wanted respect, he sighed. "You are too sensitive. I just want to keep things light." He kissed my forehead as if that erased everything. Inside, a crack had formed. I was not unfamiliar with being underestimated. I grew up in an ordinary suburban family where money was always a strain. I started working part-time at 15. The only person who truly saw potential in me was Aunt Loretta, my aunt in Manhattan. When I was 12, she walked me through Central Park and said, "Aaliyah, learn to understand money. Do not let it tell you who you are. You tell money whom it serves." Aunt Loretta never had children, but she gave me books, museum trips, and an example of independence. I thought of her whenever Terrence diminished me. The house on Beacon Hill and the company I built were proof I had walked on my own. But in my husband's eyes, I was a woman in need of his patronage. I tried to convince myself he loved me in his way, that some men only wanted to feel stronger. But real love does not require diminishing one another. Many nights, walking the hallway with gaslight shadows on the walls, I asked, why did I accept silence? Perhaps because I had grown used to carrying the weight alone. Then the accident happened. When Terrence spoke those cruel words at my hospital bed, I knew it was not a slip. It was his true face. But he still did not know the card my life held. The phone rang on a gray Boston morning. Bruised and sore, I saw the name on the screen. Calvin Hale, my family's lawyer in New York. His voice was steady, each word weighed. Aaliyah, I am very sorry to inform you. Your Aunt Loretta passed away 2 weeks ago in Manhattan. The probate process moved faster than expected. Today I am obligated to make it official. She left her entire estate in a trust worth about $100 million. You are the sole beneficiary. The number did not match my shallow breaths or the crumpled pillow under my cheek. Calvin continued, careful. The trust can open immediately once you sign. I will email details. But your aunt prepared this for a very long time. In her will, she wrote that you were the one who truly understood her lesson. Money must serve people. Her Upper East Side apartment flashed in my mind. The burgundy velvet sofa, bookshelves of first editions, her sharp laugh calling me her stubborn Carter girl. I remembered her hand in mine as we walked through Central Park, teaching me that wealth used poorly traps people just like poverty does. I whispered, "Thank you, Calvin. I will need a few days." He said, "Rest. When you are ready, I will fly to Boston." I lay still for a long time. 100 million hovered in the air like a bird refusing to land. Safety and burden, both. Strangely, I thought of Terrence first. Not to share joy, but because I knew exactly how he would react. Calculations and shopping lists, kitchen upgrades, a Cape Cod getaway, the life he believed we deserved. I planned to keep the news to myself until the weekend. I pictured a quiet morning, sunlight through the window, 2 mugs of coffee. I would tell him we could fix the roof, replace the windows, even help his sister with her graduate school debt. I wanted kindness to rebuild what had cracked. I never got the chance. 2 days later, the screech of brakes, glass shattering like hail, my body thrown. I woke with my neck stiff, shoulder in a cast, chest aching. Instead of comfort, I met Terrence's cold voice. "Did you sign any papers? Did the hospital add extra charges?" I do not want money surprises. I knew if I revealed the inheritance then, it would turn me into a walking wallet in his eyes. That night I opened Calvin's email. Pages of trust structures, withdrawal terms, investment portfolios. I remembered none of it. Only the sense of holding a map to a world Terrence did not know existed. In the dark I whispered, "Wait. Stand firm first." Life rarely gives time to prepare. Terrence returned, hands in pockets, standing far from the bed as if I were contagious. "You look awful," he said. Then, "I cannot stand a useless wife lying in bed. I need a woman who brings value." The heart monitor's beeps became hammers. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. I remembered our wedding day and vows now bitter as dust. "Terrence," I whispered, "Aunt Loretta has passed away. She left me an inheritance larger than anything you imagine." He frowned, lips curling. "You are exaggerating again. If you really had money, we would not be living like this. Stop daydreaming." The words struck like a second collision. Tears came, not from weakness, but from the agony of being denied. Not my effort, but my existence. Nurse Patrice slipped in to check the machine. She glanced at my tears and then at Terrence, her brow furrowing. He did not notice. He adjusted his tie and moved toward the door. "I have a client meeting in Back Bay. When you are done signing hospital papers, let me know." "I cannot stay." Nurse Patrice rested a hand on the bed rail. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Sometimes people are lucky to survive an accident and unlucky in whom they love. Those things are not contradictions." In her calm eyes I saw the truth. I had survived the street, but I was not sure I could survive this marriage. The door swung open again, and this time Terrence was not alone. Beside him stood a young woman, tall, with delicate features and dark hair in a neat tie. A slender diamond ring on her left hand caught the fluorescent light. Terrence's smile turned smug. "Aaliyah," he said evenly, "meet my new wife. This is Brianna." The room froze. My breath caught. The words "new wife" drilled into my skull. Brianna nodded politely at first, then lifted her gaze and looked straight at me. Her eyes widened, her hand rose to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered, "this is Ms. Carter." Terrence stiffened. The smirk vanished. He forced a laugh. "You are mistaken, Brianna. Aaliyah just does side tasks. She is not who you think." Brianna shook her head hard. "No. We met after the meeting in the Boston office. Ms. Carter was on stage outlining the new product strategy and the New York plans. I remember every word. I said nothing, only looked at Terrence. He snapped sharper now. "Brianna, you must be confused. Do you know how many women are in the company? Aaliyah is not the chief executive officer. She exaggerates. Brianna turned, no longer confused, only disappointed. I receive weekly emails directly from her. The name Aaliyah Carter is on every company notice. Do you think I do not know who I work for? I tilted my head, calm but edged with truth. You never came to my company's events, Terrence. You never listened when I tried to finish a sentence about work. To you, I was always only a wife in the kitchen. So it is no surprise you do not know who I am. Brianna swallowed, her face a mixture of respect and shock. I did not know he was still married, she said, voice shaking. I am sorry. Terrence barked, be quiet. This is not your business. Brianna stepped back, trembling. A knock sounded. The door opened, and Calvin Hale entered with his worn brown leather briefcase, his solemn face measured. Aaliyah, he said, I brought the trust documents. If you would like, we can finalize everything here. Once signed, the entire amount will be under your name. Terrence forced a laugh. What papers? Another joke? I extended my left hand, bandaged but steady. Calvin opened the briefcase, laid a thick file on the table, and set a blue fountain pen on the final page, where bold letters spelled Aaliyah Loretta Carter. The middle name felt like a hand on my shoulder. With my good hand, I gripped the pen and signed. Stroke by stroke, shaking but resolute. Calvin gathered the papers. From this moment forward, Aaliyah, the entire value of the trust belongs to you. The bank has been notified and will await your direct instructions. Terrence stepped closer, voice suddenly syrupy. See? Everything will be fine now. We can start over. With this money, you and I can live the life we deserve. I met his eyes and finally saw the shamelessness without disguise. You already have a new wife, I said. And I have a new life. He froze, fear twisting his face. Aaliyah, do not act on emotion. You know I went a little too far. You are my wife, my family. You cannot. I laughed low and bitter. A man who brings his new wife to his old wife's hospital bed? That is not family. That is betrayal. Brianna stood pale to the side, eyes wide. She stepped forward, voice shaky but clear. You lied to me, Terrence. You told me you were divorced. I cannot stand beside a man like that. She walked out. The next day, Calvin returned with more documents. Decision time. My hands trembled from painkillers, but my mind had never been clearer. I would divorce Terrence. Calvin unfolded the prenuptial agreement Terrence had once mocked as unromantic. This protects your separate assets. The Beacon Hill house, your company shares, and the Loretta Trust, he said. The very paper he dismissed now kept him from touching anything that belonged to me. When the divorce papers were filed, Terrence confronted me in the hospital hallway, eyes bloodshot. You cannot do this to me. We can still fix. You ended it, I said. You brought Brianna to the hospital and called her your new wife. He floundered. That was a misunderstanding. I had not had the chance to tell you the petition. No, Terrence. That was bigamy, a crime. You married her while still my legal husband. His face went pale. Calvin placed another file on the table. We have filed a complaint with the court. This is not merely a divorce matter. Terrence trembled. He had considered himself the one in control, the one with the right to leave. Now he was the one branded a criminal by his own actions. The trial took place 2 months later in a dark wood courtroom downtown. I sat at the plaintiff's bench, my shoulders still aching, head held high. Calvin sat beside me, steady. Terrence entered in a wrinkled suit, pride stripped away. A nervous young lawyer shuffled paper at his side. The judge read the charge. Defendant Mr. Terrence Brooks, you are charged with bigamy, marrying another woman while your legal marriage to Mrs. Aaliyah Carter remained in effect. Murmurs rippled. Terrence flushed and glanced around, seeking an exit that did not exist. His lawyer leapt up. Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding of administrative procedure. My client believed his marriage had ended when a divorce petition was filed. Calvin rose. No petition was filed before the ceremony with Ms. Brianna Cole. All documents confirm that Mr. Brooks's marriage to Mrs. Carter remained legally binding. This cannot be called a mistake. When the judge asked if I wished to speak, I stood. Your Honor, I am not seeking revenge. I want the truth acknowledged. I lived for years with a man who never respected my work or my dignity. Now his own actions have made the truth undeniable. The court approved my divorce immediately under the prenuptial terms. My assets, the Beacon Hill house, Whitaker Run, and the Loretta Trust, were fully protected. Terrence not only lost everything he hoped to touch, he also faced the criminal charge of bigamy. On the courthouse steps, he stood frozen, eyes vacant. The man who once strutted in tailored suits, claiming to bring modern energy into my old house, was reduced to a hollow shadow. I did not stop. The car door closed, and Boston glowed in the late autumn sun. A new chapter waited. In the days after, I returned to Beacon Hill. The red brick walls stood stubborn and steady, the way I had survived. Inside, everything needed renewal. I called workers to repair the roof and replace drafty windows. When the trucks pulled up, neighbors slowed to look. I smiled, feeling lighter. During demolition, old cabinets and faded drawers came out. Sadness flickered, but excitement followed. I chose white shaker cabinets, a wide farmhouse sink, and a quartz countertop. I no longer had to count every dollar. More important than money was the warmth I wanted there, not to show off, but to feel life in every meal. One afternoon, I held the document certifying my mortgage was paid in full. My fingers trembled at the cold printed words, but my heart overflowed. I pressed my hand to the wooden stair rail, remembering nights I feared I would lose the house. Now it was wholly mine. I used part of the trust to give back to those who had walked the hard road with me. At a full company meeting, lights bright on the stage, I looked out at engineers, designers, and staff who had believed in me when we were just a cramped rental office. "You stood with me through the hardest years," I said. "Now it is my turn to do right." I announced a special bonus fund. Applause roared. I created a fund to support women entrepreneurs, especially those underestimated or denied opportunity. I remembered knocking on doors and hearing rejection. I wanted other women never to endure that humiliation. I also sent support to a shelter for women and children in South Boston. On my first visit, I saw small faces hiding behind mothers, eyes full of fear and hope. "I want no one here to shiver through winter," I told the director. "I want these children to have coats, beds, and safety." Early spring sunlight streamed through my new windows when an email from Brianna arrived. "If you are willing, I would like to meet. I have much to say." I remembered her shaken eyes in the hospital when the truth broke open. She had been deceived, too. I replied, "Tomorrow, the cafe on Charles Street, 10 o'clock. Brianna arrived in a beige coat with a blank notebook, eyes red. "I do not know where to start," she said. "I am sorry. I truly did not know he was still your husband." I nodded. "I believe you. He deceived us both. But we are not enemies." Tears filled her eyes. Terrence had promised her a future, told her I had left him, said she was the one who truly understood him. "Now I see," she whispered. Those were only words to get what he wanted. I handed her a tissue. Between us there was no rivalry, only the shared understanding of women rising after a fall. When we parted, Brianna gripped my hand. "Thank you for not seeing me as the enemy," she said. "I will start over, and this time I will not let anyone define my life." "So will I said. The house glowed with a new kitchen, new windows, and new air. More importantly, my heart had been rebuilt. I was opening doors for others, my employees, the women at the shelter, even Brianna. We were all beginning again, from old wounds but with new strength. That evening, the kitchen shone under warm light. The scent of fresh wood mixed with a lemon tart my friend Renee brought from her favorite Charles Street bakery. Calvin arrived with a bottle of red wine aged long enough that, as he said, every drop tastes of patience. We sat around the new shaker table, its surface smooth and warm. Calvin raised his glass. "To a house that stands firm, and to a woman who knows how to protect what is rightfully hers." Renee smiled and clinked glasses with me. "And to friendship without conditions. No matter how many millions are in your account, true friends cannot be bought." I laughed, my throat warm. Some things we hold with contracts and signatures, and some we hold only with trust. Deep down I heard Aunt Loretta's whisper. "Understand money so it does not define you." Her words glowed like a small lamp, guiding me through the days I thought I would break. I turned to Calvin. "Do you think Aunt Loretta knew? That she left her legacy not only to give me assets, but to give me the chance to choose my life?" He smiled. "I believe she knew. The wise do not only leave wealth. They leave direction." Morning came clear and bright. Sunlight streamed through the new glass, the first rays landing on the shaker table and sparkling on glasses still wet with condensation. I pressed my palm to the wood and felt its warmth. Not heat, but life. Not a return to what was, but a beginning. Renee came down the stairs with a cup of coffee and smiled. "You look like someone who found a missing piece." I answered softly, "Not found again, found for the first time." Calvin arrived with a fresh folder, needing my signature. He set it on the table but did not rush me. "Whenever you are ready," he said. "No one is pushing. This is your journey." I looked at the two friends who had held me up when everything fell apart. Gratitude filled me. Without the right hands reaching at the right time, perhaps I would not be seeing this dawn. Light spilled across the table and across our faces. I had stepped out of the shadows. I did not need anyone to validate my worth. This life was mine to choose. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.